Do we truly know who is behind the major economic crises, wars, or peace negotiations in the world today? Beyond the leaders we see in front of the cameras and the states that make the headlines, what is happening behind the scenes? What if certain families, like an invisible hand, have directed the course of history and shifted global balances in their favor? Could such power be built solely on money, or would it require something far beyond wealth? In this story, the family in question shaped the world step by step, not just through capital, but through knowledge, international networks, strategic patience, and planning sustained across generations. They were the Rothschilds. This video tells the story of one of history's most powerful dynasties. A story written in the shadows, silent, yet profoundly earth-shattering in its impact. It all began in the 16th century Germany, in the narrow streets of Frankfurt. At that time, Jews were kept outside the city's main social life, confined to isolated neighborhoods away from public view. This area in Frankfurt was known as the Judengasse, or Jews' Lane. The street was crowded and impoverished, yet it still carried hope. The houses had no numbers. Instead, each house was identified by a symbol. At the center of this story was a house with a red shield sign on its door. The sign read, "Zum Roten Schild," meaning "at the red shield." This is where the name Rothschild was born. Centuries later, this name would evolve from identifying a single street into a symbol defining the financial destiny of Europe. The family's fate changed with Mayer Amschel Rothschild, born in 1744. Mayer lost his father at a young age. The legacy left to him was not a fortune, but knowledge, experience, and connections. He became a master of currency trading and antique coins. His intelligence and commercial intuition caught the attention of one of the most powerful aristocrats of the period, Prince Wilhelm of Hesse. This meeting changed everything. Mayer became Wilhelm's financial advisor, a court Jew. His duty was not just to manage money, but to hide and protect it when necessary. By the end of the 18th century, Mayer Rothschild took the banking business he started in Frankfurt far beyond a simple family enterprise. He made the strategic move that would transform it into a global financial empire. He sent his 5 sons to 5 major centers of Europe. Amschel Mayer remained in Frankfurt to manage the headquarters of the family business in Germany. Nathan Rothschild was sent to London, where he quickly integrated into British financial circles and multiplied the family's wealth. James Rothschild went to Paris and became one of France's most powerful financiers. Salomon Rothschild in Vienna established close ties with the Habsburg dynasty. Karl Rothschild in Naples created an influential network spreading across southern Europe. This distribution was not merely geographical. Although each office appeared autonomous, all strategic decisions were coordinated centrally. Correspondence was fast, secure, and encrypted. Despite the limited communication methods of the time, the family established its own international courier system. News of a government's financial collapse or the possibility of war often reached the Rothschilds' desks before it ever reached the rulers of those countries. This unique communication network made them more than just bankers. They became shadow diplomats and financial strategists. For example, Nathan Rothschild learned the outcome of the Battle of Waterloo before anyone else in Europe. The move he made on the London Stock Exchange with this information was recorded as one of the most profitable and controversial financial operations in history. The family members attained such powerful positions in their respective countries that they often had a say in government's external borrowing policies. The fact that each brother became indispensable to the economic and political stability of the country where he operated made the Rothschilds one of the families that laid the foundations of the modern global financial system. According to some historians, this structure was the precursor to the multinational corporation model. The Rothschilds managed not only money, but also time. Whenever a government in 19th century Europe faced a financial crisis, the first door they knocked on was theirs. King Leopold of Belgium, Holy Roman Emperor Franz, the papacy, Britain, and the Ottoman Empire. They all took loans from Rothschild banks. Wars were funded with this money and pieces were purchased. The family was no longer just a group of bankers. They were a direct political power. The financial fragility of the Ottoman Empire in the 19th century deepened through these relationships established with the Rothschild family. Although modernization accelerated with the Tanzimat reforms, the price of this transformation was heavy. Infrastructure projects, army modernization, the strengthening of central administration, and the establishment of new institutions required significant financing. Internal resources were insufficient. The solution was foreign borrowing. From the 1850s onward, the Ottoman treasury turned most frequently to the Rothschild banking network for external loans. In particular, the family's Vienna and Paris branches became the primary intermediaries for credits provided to the Ottoman treasury. The first major external loans taken to finance the Crimean War in 1854 and 1855 were processed through these channels. Interest rates were high. Repayment terms were heavy. However, for the Ottomans to be accepted as a reliable debtor in European financial markets, the Rothschild name was almost a necessity. This situation did not just create economic dependence, it also brought political direction. In exchange for the loans they provided, the Rothschild family gained oversight authority over Ottoman finances. This oversight became institutionalized over time and accelerated the process, leading to the establishment of the Duyun-u-Umumiyye, public debt administration, which severely restricted the empire's financial sovereignty. The Rothschilds' influence in the Ottoman Empire was not limited to lending. They were active, directly or indirectly, in areas such as railway projects, mining concessions, and infrastructure investments. Contributions from banks linked to the Rothschild network were secured for the financing of the Hejaz Railway. Furthermore, certain mining exploration and operation concessions in southeastern Anatolia and the Balkans passed into the control of capital groups linked to the Rothschilds. Thus the family transformed into an actor in Ottoman lands that acted as a lender, a resource collector, and a strategic investor. The political reflections of these relationships were inevitable. While the influence of great powers like France, Austria, and Britain over the Ottomans increased, the Rothschild family acted as the financial representative of these power centers. The door open to the Rothschilds through Ottoman finances also formed the financial leg of Western intervention. From this perspective, the financial collapse of the Ottoman Empire was not merely the result of poor management or economic inadequacy. It was also a dramatic consequence of the dependence on the Rothschild-centered international financial system. Although their names rarely appeared in official documents, their seal was behind every major loan taken. The financial fragility of the empire's final century deepened further through this invisible but powerful network of relationships. The Rothschilds were not content with merely lending to governments. Combining their financial power with a long-term vision, they systematically invested in the world's most strategic and profitable sectors. The goal was not just to grow wealth, but to establish lasting influence over global resources. In 1868, Chateau Lafite, located in the Bordeaux region of France and considered one of the world's most prestigious wine production centers, was purchased. This move was not just an investment in luxury consumption. It was a deepening of the cultural and social ties established with the European aristocracy. The Rothschild name was now synonymous not only with banking but also with elite culture. In 1875, an even more strategic step was taken. The Rothschild family played a key role in financing the acquisition of minority shares in the Suez Canal on behalf of the British government. The Suez Canal was of vital importance for the British Empire's trade route with India and the Far East. With this move, Britain's colonial interest became directly linked to Rothschild capital. The family was no longer just an investor, but an actor influencing global geopolitics. By 1883, the Rothschilds early recognized the rise of the energy sector and invested in the oil fields of the Baku region in Azerbaijan. This step was a direct challenge to the energy giant of the time, the Rockefeller family. The family was now active not only in Europe, but also in energy-critical regions such as the Caucasus and the Middle East. They didn't stop there. They entered the diamond and mining markets aggressively. They became major shareholders in the South Africa-based De Beers Company. In the following years, De Beers would become a giant that almost single-handedly controlled the global diamond supply. They also held significant stakes in large-scale mining companies like Rio Tinto. These companies extracted not only gold and silver, but also strategic minerals such as copper, iron, and uranium. The common point of all these investments was clear. Those who control natural resources control the future. For the Rothschilds, wealth was not just about numbers. Wealth was strategically positioned power. However, by the 20th century, the dynasty began to falter. The Naples branch closed when the last male heir died childless. The Frankfurt branch weakened and split because it had only female heirs. The real devastation, however, took place in Austria and France. When Nazi Germany annexed Austria in 1938, the Rothschild family was forced to sell off its banks for a pittance. Those who could escape did. However, one family member was captured and forced to pay $21 million, one of the highest ransoms ever paid until that day, to be released. The French branch suffered a similar fate. The Nazis seized Rothschild estates. Adolf Hitler and Hermann Göring personally selected and took thousands of works from the family's art collection. A large portion of this collection was never returned. After the war, only the British branch managed to stay on its feet. In the second half of the 20th century, Evelyn de Rothschild became one of the financial advisors to the British royal family. As the family moved away from their former visible power, they shifted toward a quieter and more closed structure. In 2003, the Paris and London branches were merged. David de Rothschild took over the leadership of the family. To maintain secrecy, numerous shell companies organized in a chain-like fashion were established, centered in Switzerland. Today, the exact total wealth of the Rothschild family is not known. According to sources like Forbes, the family no longer appears on the lists of the world's richest. Baron Benjamin de Rothschild, who passed away in 2021, was the richest individual in the family according to Forbes, with a fortune of approximately $1.4 billion. As of 2025, no name bearing the Rothschild surname appears on global wealth lists. However, this decline does not mean the family has completely disappeared. On the contrary, it has made them more invisible and more mysterious. According to some, the Rothschilds still direct central banks. According to others, they influence governments from behind the scenes. Certain conspiracy theories speak of Rothschild influence on many issues, from the establishment of Israel to the Federal Reserve System. Most of these claims have not been officially proven. However, there is an undeniable fact. The Rothschild family became one of the dynasties in history that best demonstrated how money could be transformed into global power. They rose silently. They withdrew silently. But there are some names in history. The less visible they are, the more deeply their influence is felt.